Elon Musk is getting into some trouble, which might not be too surprising. He seems to be doing that quite often nowadays, but this time it's with an entire country. And this country is Brazil. They are going after Twitter or X, his app, whatever, going after him for spreading, I think, disinformation stuff, whatever they call, which obviously he says is a free speech platform, all this great stuff, whatever. But he obviously is not agreeing with it's one judge in Brazil, and he's against them, and he is fighting back against them. But as of right now, it looks like the Brazil's top judge has ordered suspension of X in the country on Friday after the owner, Elon Musk, refused to appoint legal representative for the social media platform in the country. So obviously, this is kind of weird for, I'd say, reading this. If Elon Musk wants to fight this, wouldn't he hire legal representation and fight this stuff? Maybe he is, but just isn't doing it yet. But either way, Twitter is now not allowed in Brazil. It is kicked out and you cannot go on it. Obviously, Elon Musk not happy about that. He says, this is his post here, saying free speech is the bedrock of democracy, and an unelected pseudo judge in Brazil is destroying it for political purposes. Which is funny because he's obviously tweeted this, and if it's banned in Brazil, no one's going to see it in Brazil. But still, the point remains, I guess, free speech is a bedrock of democracy. Sure. I think a lot of people, and maybe even Elon Musk, misconstrue this free speech thing, where free speech exists in the US. It's in the Bill of Rights. You have a right to free speech, but you do not have that in other countries. I'm sure there's probably some other countries that have some sort of a right to free speech and stuff, but for like major countries and stuff, the US is really the only one that has that Bill of Rights. You have a freedom of speech here, and you can't be jailed and stuff for things that you say. Obviously, there's some sort of limitation there, like you can't yell fire in a theater, but for the most part, if you're just giving your opinion on something, you can't be thrown in jail for that. But in Brazil now, I don't know what they have. They have a constitution apparently. I haven't read the Brazilian constitution, but I would say they probably don't have a right to free speech, or if they do, they probably have something laid out that gives the government the power to say, well, that type of speech isn't allowed. So that might be what's going on here. And the punishment for doing this is this stuff right here. So apparently, if you're in Brazil and you're using Twitter, that's going to be taken down within 24 hours. App stores have 5 days to comply, so they take down Twitter as well. And then if you are using a VPN to access Twitter, it's an $8,874 daily fine for doing that. And this goes on to say, yes, it could happen here too. I mean, I guess, but again, that would be insane. I don't think anyone would be supportive of the government coming in and shutting down Twitter and saying like Twitter's not allowed to operate in the US. I don't know if people would be all right with that. I think it should be completely fine if it operates. The government should have no say in what a company does or doesn't operate as. So hopefully people are on the same page as that. But also for free speech and stuff, obviously the government has a monopoly on violence. So if they wanted to, they could probably come up with some other reason. But realistically, it shouldn't be able to happen here because you can't be jailed for free speech. But there's a bunch of stuff that happens with that. But this is the fines here. And what people are doing now is actually using VPNs and directing them to Brazil and just flooding the Brazilian like internet there so that people don't know what's going on, who's actually here using Brazilian internet, or who's using a VPN to connect there from somewhere else in the world. So it's makes it a lot more work for them to keep track of, and maybe overwhelms them and actually defeats the purposes, or makes so they can't really enforce these rules. So maybe that's the thing about the internet, right? If you try and do something dumb and most people think that it's dumb, they'll find a solution to just overwhelm you, and then you've created a bigger problem for yourself. But also something that was kind of a big deal that I think people weren't really talking about is, this says here, unlike other social media and technology platforms, will not comply in a secret illegal order. Apparently, Brazil, I don't know if it was Brazil or a different country, but there was something that came to Twitter or Elon Musk and said, can you take down these tweets or censor these tweets in this country? It might have been Germany. but basically saying, can you do this secretly, not make a big deal out of it, just do it for us, and we won't fine you or we won't do something for you. And instead of just doing it, apparently Elon Musk went and said, this is what they sent me in private that they wanted me to do, which I would be all for. Like, transparency is the best thing, especially when it comes to governments, right? But this obviously not a good look for any government saying, to go secretly offer something behind the scenes. You're kind of admitting that you're doing something wrong if you won't do it in the public eye. But apparently this also stems out to another one of Elon Musk's companies, Starlink. They said earlier this week we received an order from Brazil's Supreme Court Justice that freezes Starlink's finances and prevents Starlink from conducting financial transactions in that country. This order is based on an unfounded determination that Starlink should be responsible for the fines levied unconstitutionally against X. It was issued in secret and without affording Starlink any of the due process of the law guaranteed by the Constitution of Brazil. We intend to address the matter legally. So I guess something happening here, like Starlink isn't allowed to operate financial transactions. I would assume they probably would be trying to get Starlink to stop operating internet services. That's the big thing Starlink's known for and doing. They even say here they connect more than 250,000 people in Brazil, including small businesses, schools, first responders, many others. So it is kind of weird to go after Twitter and stuff and probably not like Elon Musk and then go after one of his other companies because it's associated with him. This obviously is kind of not really, lasered eyed here. It's kind of vague as to what's going on, as to why they're getting shut down here, what order the orders are from. But for some reason, Starlink's getting involved in this as well. And this guy here says something like Brazil's playing high stakes games here. If a business and investor will think twice before engaging in Brazil if they can't guarantee fair legal proceedings. That could be something that, ends up being a second or third consequence from this, because obviously other people are going to see this. Kind of like what happened in France when the Telegram CEO and founder got arrested in France and everything happened there. They wouldn't think that other tech billionaires and people are probably going to stay away from France now and not vacation there or stop there, because what if they're next to get arrested, right? So that could happen in Brazil, where investors and businesses look at that and say, well, what happens if Brazil decides they don't like me anymore, and then they come after you and come after your businesses and shut you down and fine you and do all this stuff? It's a possibility, and maybe turns out that people aren't willing to take that risk. But either way, the Brazil versus Elon Musk saga is getting started. I guess he is getting his companies banned in Brazil. We'll see what happens with it. If this VPN thing actually, if people overwhelm Brazil and allow the Brazilian people to just use Twitter still. Either way, it's kind of crazy to see a country going after Elon Musk again, and kind of wrapping in many of his companies this time to try and do something against him. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. That's going to do it for this video. As always, do make sure to and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next